DJ Lil create vibes now.
Welcome to another episode of the Get a Love Like Mine podcast. We are your humble hosts. I'm Keisha Amos. This is my beautiful husband, Sam Amos. We know you guys have missed us, so I don't even know what episode this is. I want to say season 4, episode 5. But if I'm wrong, charge it to my head, not my heart. We have been super, super busy, so we apologize for missing a couple of weeks, but we wanted to bring you this podcast in the right way. So we got a few new microphones, as you can see, and I'm trying to get this whole studio thing together, but it's coming together.
Yes.
So, how have you been?
Very busy, but this is absolutely my most favorite time of year because, we went through this heat wave for the summer, and now the weather is pleasant, and we're moving into holiday season, so we always spend a lot of time with family. And our listeners don't know this, we have a group chat, text message wise, that has about 20 people from our family in it. So we always stay connected throughout the whole year. So times like this, we look forward to spending time for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. So yeah, just looking forward to it, and glad we got on the other side of that heat wave. It was so hot.
Yeah, it was pretty hot. So you had a topic that you wanted to discuss. Why don't you bring that to the people?
Yes, so sort of in lieu of Veterans Day, I had thought a lot about veterans, and we try to be diverse and try to bring content to as many as we can that may be listening. So this whole veteran thing, I've never was in the military. Yeah, you were not in the military. So we're big on two things: treat people the way you want to be treated, and then trying to help your understanding with things that you deal with in life by putting yourself in other people's place. So back when we were younger in school, a lot of history was on, maybe wars and stuff like that, leaders or whatever. But it wasn't interesting to me. I was an athlete, and so all I was really interested in was sports. But as I got older, some of these things that happened in history are more interesting to me because, I just never knew the history of the facts or the whole meaning of some of these things. So that got me thinking around Veterans Day about veterans and being in the military, going off to war or whatever. So I put myself in a veteran spot, maybe that had been in the war, and I started watching videos or whatnot on YouTube, listening to some of the lifestyle or the things that you're subjected to as a military personnel. So one of the things I thought of, and I've never really heard it said like this before, is that in the military is the only place you can go where not only is it okay, you're taught that it's okay to kill somebody and not have to deal with the consequence of going to court or going to jail. You're programmed mentally, your mindset has to be, it's okay to kill someone. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's tough to change your mindset from you might have grown up until at least a young adult or teenager, and that's always been taught that's something you don't do.
Right.
And so now in the military, they have to train you to think that it's all right to kill somebody. Okay, so you spend 10 years, whatever it is in the military, and let's say you might have went to war. Now, you decide to leave the military. Mm-hmm. Now you have to be trained that, okay, it's not okay to kill someone now that you're out of the military. You can't do what you were doing there. So now your whole mindset has to be completely reversed. And we see a lot of, in society, ex-military trying to cope with the things that they were taught. Like, how are you expected to change gears that extreme from hot to cold and function properly in society as, okay, let's just say you were in the military and you went to war and you were taught, yeah, here's a military rifle, you get to use it to not only protect yourself, but you know, you're out battling other countries or whatever, and so you may have made friends with someone, you know, y'all got to be close, to stick together because you're not there with any friends or any family.
Right.
So this is your new family. And so you may be out here in these, I mean, people getting blown up and whatever goes on, and you sit there and watch your friends get shot up or whatever, and you're expected to continue on as if that didn't just happen. So how does your mind process all of that to function properly in the military? But then on the backside of this, when the military is gone, you're expected to just slide back into society and not be affected by the things that you saw and had to do. And so some of the things that I saw that military soldiers struggle with is the guilt of being in the military, and like really your mindset. I had to kill complete strangers that I don't even know. Like, this is, you know, what happens in the military. And then now I'm supposed to change gears and just function in society properly. And so many ex-military people, like one of the numbers I heard from the Vietnam War is that over 800,000 men are struggling with the things they saw and the things they did and dealt with 10 years after the war was over. Like, that's a long time to have these images in your head. I know how images in your head work. Like, when my mom passed away, like, I saw her, we had to get her ready for the funeral, right? And that image of just me and my two sisters and my mom laying in a casket is in my head like it was yesterday. That was over 25 years ago. So I can only imagine being out in the field of warfare and seeing people you know get shot up, and you just have to continue on like it didn't happen.
Yeah. Like you said, you've never been in the military. I haven't either. My dad fought in Vietnam, and going to the military was never something I aspired to do, but it was something that he told me that I should not do. He told me military is no place for black people. And, you know, he didn't really tell me of his experience over there, but I would imagine that there had to be some kind of PTSD of not only seeing your friends be killed, but of killing someone and seeing that as a victory, as opposed to being remorseful of what you did. Because when you're over there, you can't be remorseful.
Right.
You have to, you know, keep going, because this fight is just right now. We got to fight again tomorrow. So there's no time for remorse. You have to kind of just suppress and bury your feelings. So that's crazy. When I worked at some of you may not know, but I used to work at the post office. When I worked at the post office, it was so many people who had been in the military that worked there. It was almost like you go to the military and you're going to come home and work for the post office. It was like the steps that you would take. And then you would hear the phrase going postal. Most of the time that was attributed to somebody who was in the military that snapped because of whatever reason, you know. And I don't know if it was because they went to war or I've seen so many. When I was younger, my dad, any military movie, we were going to watch it. So I've seen so many military movies that some of that, the harshness of it It's just in basic training. As soon as you go in, you go to basic training, it is a culture shock to somebody. Like these kids we got, if they were to go to just basic training, they would not survive because it's just rigorous. And, I think the movie was Full Metal Jacket. Did you ever see that?
Yes.
Is that the one where he made him clean the toilet with his toothbrush? Yeah, like who's gonna do that? These kids, So, and that wasn't even the war part of it. That was just kind of like the indoctrination into being in the military. You have to follow their orders. And I almost feel like the post office was that same way. That rule, just follow your last instruction. It doesn't matter what they tell you to do, even if it's wrong. You just follow your last instruction. That seems to me like that is a military rule. Like, you just do what we tell you to do. If we tell you to kill these people, you kill them, and let's keep going. So, even though I worked at the post office for as long as I did, I never experienced anyone going postal at our facility, but I do know that it happened. But do you think that is from the war? I mean, fighting in war, or do you think that's just from that military mindset? Well, like you say, the basic training is, and to a certain extent, you understand that if this operation is going to be successful, I have to completely tear down whatever you already have in your head and reprogram it. So that's basically the purpose of the basic training. I have to completely break your mindset and put a fresh new mindset in. And so, like you say, you can't have compassion and remorse. You have to feel like, okay, it's okay for me to go kill strangers. That's what I'm here to do. Yeah, and I don't have to worry about going to court. I don't need a lawyer. We're going to okay it in here. So I don't know. Like, I have a good friend of mine that he has a whole brand that it just says mindset on it, shirts, hats, and stuff. So the mindset is huge. So trying to figure this mindset out, we have to change your mindset. I don't know how to, I've tried to put myself in the military place, even though we were never there. So I don't know how you reprogram someone's mind and think on the back end that they're going to be okay once they leave here. And so many people are dealing with this craziness. And like you say, you've seen postal at the post office. Well, people make jokes about that stuff. They laugh. But to the people in the post office, it's not funny at all. No, because we know how real it is. Because you've seen people snap. Right. I've seen people snap at work and get the... I mean, like, there's one guy, I'm not going to call his name, but he was very quiet. Like, if you got him to speak to you on a regular, it was just a head nod. It wasn't a good morning, good night, none of that. But one day, a supervisor said something to him, and all of a sudden, he was like the Incredible Hulk, like yelling, "Don't talk to me like that!" And it was like, good Lord, what did he say? But he definitely snapped, but it wasn't like he came in there to shoot anybody up or anything. But I do know he was in the military. And I do know, like I said, he was very quiet, reserved to himself, which I would think would be a way you would kind of cope. If, like you were saying, when you try to come back and slide into society, to kind of just keep quiet and stay under the radar. Not do a lot of talking, not be real boisterous. Some people, they come back and they get right on drugs. They get right to the alcohol. And those people, they're not being quiet. They're being out there. But you kind of attribute their drinking problem or drug problem to them trying to cope with. Yeah, right. And suppress all the things that they saw or that they went through or had to do. Because, you hear horror stories. You hear some people who go to the military and they have them a good time. I got a cousin who was stationed in Germany. He been trying to get back to Germany for the longest, but I can only imagine it's because he had a good time in Germany. He has friends that are still there that he met when he was stationed over there. But if I'm remembering correctly, he did not fight in a war. There was no war going on during the time that he was there. And now he has a son who's also in the military that has not fought in the war. And he's been in the military for, I want to say, about 6 years. But he hasn't been deployed.
So we try to, one of the whole reasons for even speaking on this topic is trying to understand and deal with these types of people. Like, don't just write somebody off because they're not like you, they're odd, something's not right with this guy. Well, my question is always, well, how did they get that way? And so you go to you're ex-military, and of course I'm sure they have certain medications that they prescribe right up front, like this is what we give to everybody to try to cope with what you dealt with, what you saw, what you remember, the things that are going on inside of you. And then here we go down that medication road. Now you have side effects, and it's messing with your health.
Yeah.
So you take medicine for your mind, and then it starts deteriorating your body. It's a really tough situation, and like you say, some of the people at work. I have one of my coworkers. He was in the military. I don't know if he particularly went to Vietnam or not, but they make jokes. People joke, and I can only imagine if you're the guy they're joking on, it probably doesn't sit too well. But they say, around this guy, do not holler out incoming because he's going to lose it. He's an older guy. He's in his 70s, but everybody's laughing, but that's probably not as funny as you think it is. If that's something that really disrupts you mentally because you remember being there when, missiles flying over your head and all this gunfire, you're supposed to just put that behind you like, well, that was then, this is now, I did my time. But you're a human. You don't just turn a light switch off and on to live in that lifestyle. So it's tough, but you need to try to have compassion and understanding for veterans because, like I said, I've never gone through it, but I can only imagine after listening to it. And they say the average age of soldier that was in Vietnam was like 19. That's not even old enough to drink, but they were young guys saying that like we didn't really even know what was going on. So this is what's leading the military. We don't know what's going on. Yep. Wow.
They don't even know why they were fighting. They don't even know what the war was about. All they know is anybody that's got slanted eyes, you need to shoot them. They trying to kill you, and you need to kill them. That was Vietnam, and like I said, my dad fought in Vietnam, and although my mom says my dad was violent to her, I never really saw him be violent. But I still was scared of his violence. I don't even know how to explain that. Like, it was almost like you didn't want anybody to make him mad because he had this kind of air about him, like kind of like the guy at the post office that he pretty quiet and laid back on the regular. But if you push the wrong button, he could turn into the Incredible Hulk, and that is kind of how I saw my daddy, even though I never saw him turn into the Incredible Hulk. I heard stories from other people that he was very capable of turning into that. And I'm pretty sure that whole mindset, or, like you said, trying to cope into society and, just be a normal, productive citizen when you have thoughts of all of these things. And my dad, he didn't really drink. He didn't do drugs. But he had other vices that he just kind of used to cope. And like he gambled a lot and, things like that. But that mindset, I'm trying to, like, there was one guy that I dated. We didn't date long. It was kind of after I first divorced my husband. He was in the military, and he fought in, is it Desert Storm? Was that the war?
Yes.
He fought in Desert Storm. And one thing I'll say him and my dad both had in common is guns. They had lots of guns. Like, you know, they were licensed to carry. They had plenty guns. And like I said, my mom told me that my dad was abusive to her when he got out of the military. Like when they started dating or whatever, and they were married, when they got married, my dad was 25. And he had already been to war, fought in the war, and came home. So 25.
Let me ask you this, and you may not know, your dad, like when he passed, he had a lot of guns. Do you think that was from being in the military, or was he just interested in guns, or was that both?
I think that came from the military. I mean, like, I feel like because he went to the military so young, it shaped who he was. So I can't really pinpoint and say he would have been into guns even if he hadn't went to the military, because he went to the military early. Like, as soon as he turned, I don't even think he was 18. I think he was 17 when he went in the military. My aunt told me she signed for him to go in early. So he went in and went to war, and then came home, and, you know, was trying to get his life together. He ended up going to Barber College and met my mom, and, you know, the rest is history. But so the guy that I was dating, he had guns too. And like I said, my mom said that my dad was abusive to her, even though I never saw, like when they divorced, I never saw him be abusive to any other woman. But the guy that I dated, we were older. I was like almost 30, like late 20s. And he was almost 10 years older than me. So late 30s for him. And he had never been married. He didn't have any kids. But he had guns. And like when I didn't want to date him anymore, I told him, you know, I kind of just cut him off. It wasn't like we got into it. I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It wasn't really nothing to it anyway. But he didn't want to accept that. And so he just showed up at my house, and no one was, it was just me and my daughter at home. She was little at the time. Like, I don't even think she was 2. And when he knocked on the door, I was very shocked, because it wasn't like he said, I'm coming over. I just was like, no, I don't want to talk to you, and hung up the phone. Then about 20 minutes later, somebody's knocking at the door. So I opened the door, and I'm like, what are you doing here? He comes in, and he was like, you know, you hung up the phone in my face. And I had never seen him act like that. Like, he was a very cool cat, very cool, calm, collective, a ladies' man. Like, just, you would see him strutting down the hall. Like, he just had this air about him, like he was all that. So to see him so distraught, like, you just hung up in my face, like he was triggered. And then he was like, let me go back to my car, because I left the window down and my gun is on the seat. So I'm looking like, you came up, like, you literally grabbed your gun and came up to my house? Like, what was your intention? So it was very scary, number one, to see him like that. And that just, like I said, I had just left my husband, my first husband, so I really wasn't trying to jump into no serious relationship with anybody. But when he did that, I was like, for sure, I don't want no parts of this, because I don't know what he's capable of. It's kind of like the same with my dad, like, very scary to know that someone is capable of killing somebody, and then you're supposed to just accept them, that they love me, so they're not gonna hurt me. It's a very hard switch to flip.
I remember, I never told you this. Maybe I did. I don't remember. you mentioned your dad giving you defense mechanism against boys. Boys messing with you. So what he told you was disturbing to me. Like,
it was disturbing to me. That's why I'm like, he was a scary man.
Right. Like,
so for y'all who don't know, when I was in third grade, this was my first year going to public school, and I had to ride the school bus. Before that, I had went to Catholic school. So this is my first year riding the school bus. My parents not dropping me off at school, and it was a set of twins who rode the bus with me. And back at this time, I don't know why this was the trend. The trend was a girl walking down the aisle of the bus. You either grab her butt, or they had those big, I don't know what kind of brush you call it, but it's like a rectangular brush with a handle, brown brush, and they would get the brush and paddle you on your behind with the brush. And so, of course, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is my first year dealing with this, and so of course I tell my daddy, like, these boys are doing this. My daddy told me, he bought me a box of pencils, told me to sharpen every last one of them, and when I'm walking down the aisle, whoever touches my butt to grab a pencil and stab them in the eye. You don't tell no 8-year-old to stab somebody in the eye. Like, that was so, and he was so serious. Like, when I told him they were still doing it, he was like, I told you what to do, why you didn't do it? It's like, that is,
I can't.
My mindset does not tell me to do something like that. That's war. Like, that's war tactics. I don't know. I didn't think it was that serious to blind somebody because of what they did, even though what they did was wrong and, you know, all that, but it was, so that disturbed you.
Yes, when you told me that, I'm like, wow. It didn't click to me that, you know, this may be his military mindset. Like, I don't think we had even really discussed your dad being military at that point when you told me that story.
Oh, he had all kind of if somebody doing something, pick up a crowbar, the tire jack, whatever. Like, he was very violent in his self-defense. Like, you know, and it was like, I'm a girl. Like, I'm not going to do these things you're telling me to do. If you're in a fight and somebody knock you to the ground, pick up a brick and bust them across the head.
And keep bashing them
until they stop moving.
Right.
Like, okay.
Like, this is... But that's exactly what I mean by, okay, you're expected to... Okay, you make it out of the military. You know, you don't get shot up or lose a limb or something. But here you are trying to cope, and boy, that's some pretty harsh advice right there. But the old pencil in the eye trick, like,
yeah, did that make you scared? Like, I don't know if I want to date this girl. She might be.
Well, I mean, to be honest, like, that was really one of the first times I ever even heard of, you know, something like that. Like, that was a defense for, what was you, 3rd grade?
8 years old.
Wow. Like, I wouldn't say that to my kid, but I went in the military, so my mind wouldn't even go there.
My mind wouldn't have gone there either. And even though he told me that, you see, I never forgot it. But I've never been in a situation where I was attacked. But I just have to feel like if I was attacked, that some of the things he told me would come to mind to do. Like, not saying, I don't want to victim shame or make it seem like women who get attacked, like, you know, and they just lay there and all this, because I might end up doing the same thing if I was ever in that position. But I just know my daddy gave me such horrible advice on how to defend myself that I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not stabbing somebody in the eye with a pencil. He literally bought me the box of pencils.
He was dead serious?
He was serious.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. But that's a military. And my dad, like so many people, he was a pillar of the community. So many people loved him. They thought he was so laid back and mild-mannered.
And he was.
And he was. Would give you the shirt off his back. But he had this scary side of him that was like, you know, you don't want to get on his bad side.
Wow, that's amazing. I have co-workers that one in particular, both of his sons went to the military. He didn't go, but both his sons did, and he said, "Man, they both. I can't get through to them. You know, I sit and try to just conversate with them, father to son, and boy, he said, man, one of them's way out in left field, man. When he come back from the military, both of them ended up disabled vets. For what reason, I wasn't in their business like that. But he said one of them, he has a girlfriend, and he went and they bought a tent and went and lived out in the mountains somewhere. Like, your mind wasn't that before you went. But when you came back, boy, he was completely disconnected, and he didn't want to be around society. He didn't want to be around people, groups of people, all that, going to the grocery store and the mall. Stuff. Oh, no, that's too many people. And that was just one of his sons. He said, and that son, he said he really just kind of took on a cult mentality. Like he was into, I don't know if it was devil worshiping, but it was some really strange stuff. And so that was...
He wasn't doing that prior to...
No. It wasn't even in his mindset. He said, like, I met both the boys when they were younger, before any of that even happened. They were mild-mannered, quiet, fun, laughing. And so the younger one came home, and he let him stay with him for a while, and he had a girlfriend, but the house he was living in was not his house. He was renting. And so the room that younger boy stayed in, after he left, he rented a room like the kid had punched holes all in the walls. He said when he moved the poster, moved the picture, it was the room was full of holes in the wall just from bare hands. Like, he just couldn't cope with it. He was just always angry and hostile. Like, any little thing, he would just go off and punch up all sheetrock. And so he finally left, and boy, he said that house was tore up when he left. When he got ready to move, he had to fix all that up for the owner of that house.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. I've been watching a lot of documentaries lately about different things. One was like how to become a mob boss. One was how to become a cult leader. I don't know why these things come up in my algorithm and why I watch them, but it was interesting to me, the mindset, as you say. And on the one about becoming a cult leader, you basically have to break someone's mind to get them to think, to believe what you're selling.
Right.
And I think that's how the military does, kind of with the basic training being so hard and rigorous. They have to break you out of whatever mindset you were in, and so you can adopt their mindset. And then depending on how long you're in there, you may be fully indoctrinated in their mindset and never recover from that or be able to think a different way.
And you're expected to. It was crazy.
But what I was trying to do by bringing up that mindset, that's kind of what happens when you go from being single to being in a relationship, to get married, making that decision to get married. You really have to break that old you. You have to break that single you, that mindset of, I'm going in here and I'm going to get these numbers and I'm going to take this girl home and I'm going to, do this. You have to kind of break that to get indoctrinated to, this is my person, I'm going to be devoted to this person, whatever. The son that you were talking about, you said him and his girlfriend went out into the wilderness. Was she in the military?
I don't think she was. Don't quote me, because like I said, I wasn't that deep into their business like that. I just know of the stories that the friend would tell me about his kids. But I guess she was kind of like a member in a cult. Like, she just kind of...
They have to have that mindset that's able to be broken.
Right. So she just kind of adopted whatever was... He was saying, like, this is the best thing for us right now. And went along with him. I don't know if she liked it or didn't like it, but she went. So you were living up somewhere in Colorado, I believe. So it gets cold up in them mountains, and all you have is a tent. There's no electricity. I mean, if you had something to eat, it was on an open fire right here. Wow, you know what I'm saying? Like that mindset is detrimental. Like,
I think you can pretty much convince anybody to do anything if you tap into their mindset. I watched a documentary yesterday about it was a couple who they found love with each other, and then they decided that they were going to sell this. It wasn't like, well, I guess it was kind of like a matchmaker. They were matchmakers, but they had this community called Twin Flames, and they felt like they were called. The man said he was Jesus. Like he looked so much like the white Jesus that you see everywhere. He thought he was Jesus, so they could look at two people and say, that's your soulmate. And they had convinced women that they were masculine energies and told them their soulmate was another woman. And the women would be like, but I'm not gay, I'm not a lesbian. Yeah, you're not a lesbian, you're a man. And some of them literally went through with changing their sex. They became transgender men. Like, what kind of tapping into somebody's brain can you convince them to not only you're not, and some of the women like now, they were like, I never thought I was a man trapped in a woman's body. I never thought that, but he convinced me. It's like, what kind of mindset do you have that you are that easily convinced? I feel like if I went to the military, they would have kicked me out during basic training.
Yeah, that happens.
They would have been like, no, she's not.
Not military material, huh? You're not military material. So, all that to say, I have a newfound respect for military personnel. Like, it couldn't possibly be easy to try to transition from one back to the other, and fit into society and just be a normal person again. We see that with a lot of times these military people are interested in guns and then they end up being police or whatever. And so you get into law enforcement, and just like everything else, the people that are already there, they know which ones are the bad ones, It may not be with one or two, but everybody knows who it is. Now, if you and I are equals, I can't put you out or discipline you, but I know, some of the stuff you're doing is a little rotten there because you need to straighten up, but I can't say that to you. And so then you start having problems in society with this police officer targeting this group of people or that group of people, and
being trigger happy because that's the mindset that they had in military.
Right.
Like, you just kill people when you see them. You don't even know the reason why. You just kill them. But their favorite line is, "I was in fear for my life. I thought he had a weapon."
And it might have just been a
cell
pack of Skittles.
Whatever. Anyway,
yeah.
We gotta ask the Amos. I saw this on a Facebook group and decided I wanted to talk about it. So it was in a mom's Facebook group that I'm in, and the first thing I'm going to read is the text message that a 16-year-old wrote to her mom. It says, "My dad told me how much he pays you in child support, and he showed me. I just don't understand how my dad pays $1,900 in child support when I ask for something, you say no. Also, you use the money my dad sends to take care of me to spend on my two siblings. When I ask for something, it's always a problem, and you threaten to take my phone away when I do anything you don't like. If it wasn't for me being here and my dad paying, you couldn't afford to keep the house. I do love you, but I feel like you take advantage of having me here. I'd rather live with my dad, and I just want you to allow for it to happen without making a big issue. I don't think it's right that I don't benefit from my dad's child support, yet you spend it on everyone and everything else. I always have to struggle for everything, and it's not right when you get paid so much for me. Then this is what the mom put to the group. My 16-year-old daughter feels entitled to my child support I get from her father. How would you handle this? I also think her father is putting things in her head. Either way, the money he sends is for me to care for her, and she doesn't grasp paying my bills, which also benefits her siblings, is a part of this. And then she got in the comments, because everybody was roasting her, and said, for those of you asking, she is complaining. She asked for her nails done, which would be unfair to her sister. So no, not happening. She wants money to order lunch at school from a pizza place that they can order from. She asks for money for things that are unnecessary. I give her money for things that are necessity. Recently, she began demanding $800 to do driver's ed. I can't just use $800 for driver's ed right now. So I already know you got a lot to say, so
there's a lot to dissect out of that. Let me start with this part. The old, this is the mom saying, I think he's over there putting stuff in her head. Mm-hmm. Let that go. Okay, so this kid's 16. She can think on her own.
Mm-hmm. And does.
Yes. So I've heard that before, so let's get off of that one. He's not putting anything in her head. If anything, he told her the truth. And she was able to, I mean, she's not retarded. She can make her own.
Hey, you have got to stop using that word. You know
I know exactly the word. I know exactly the word, but still. She's not without mind. So she can see what's going on here. So parents, maybe if your kid's 2 or 3 years old, they might not see what's going on. But at 16, they can see well. Mm-hmm. So, and then you're saying, well, I make sure she has necessities. So what, you spend $1,900 on toilet paper and and paper towels.
Okay, so let's break this down. Mama and 3 kids. She ain't say nothing about having a stepdaddy or nothing, so we just gonna assume it's the mama and the 3 kids. $1,900. The little girl is right if she say, like, okay, so as a mom who was getting child support with 1 kid, I had to pay my light bill, water bill, gas bill, rent, groceries, car, insurance, gas, all these things. And I wasn't getting but $300 a month. So you can pretty much know that $300 was probably just enough to feed my child. But $1,900, if you paying the light bill, the water bill, and all that with that $1,900, you are using that child support money to take care of you and my siblings. Mm-hmm. That is true. I feel like, and then this doesn't say how much child support she getting for the siblings.
For the other 2.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I'm gonna be on the child side.
Yeah, you have to feel the kid on this one. Seriously.
Yeah, $1,900. That's a lot of money. And if all the girl asking for is pizza
and nails $60.
Yeah, like, come on now. And you saying that's not fair to your other daughter? I'm pretty sure the other daughter is not 16. Mm. Like, if she's younger, like let's say she's 8, she don't need to get her nails done, but a 16-year-old can get their nails done. I'm just thinking that $1,900, that's a lot of money. And, you know, even if you, like she was talking about for the driver's ed, if you spend $800, like you could take $400 out of the 19 for 2 months. Just set it to the side and pay for the driver's ed. Because one thing about it, when I was growing up, my dad, he of course didn't pay nowhere near $1,900. He gave my mama $100 a week, which to me at that time was a lot of money. But anytime I ask for anything like driver's ed or something like that, my mama will be like, ask your daddy. Mm-hmm. So not only was he paying the child support, anything extra, she would say, ask your daddy. So I feel like in this instance, if my daddy was paying $1,900 and I went to him and was like, can you pay for this? He would have been looking at me like I'm crazy. Your mama gonna have to pay for that. Like $1,900? Yeah, that's, I don't know. For me, on that one, I'm on the side of the little girl. And the fact that the little girl is asking to go live with her dad, sometimes in those instances, you gotta let people bump their head. You gotta let them figure out on their own whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Because a lot of teenagers, they want to swap. Like, you know, if they living with one parent and this the parent with the rules and the, you know,
discipline.
Yeah. And this other parent is different, then of course I'm going to want to go over this parent house. So sometimes you know, might have to let them see. Well, I'm going to let you go over there. And then you'll see that the grass wasn't always greener on the other side. A lot of times with, you know, in my law firm, you have dads who be fighting for custody. And I have a lot of good dad clients that, you know, really want to be a dad. But sometimes you have those dad clients who are only fighting for custody because they don't want to pay child support. And they talk like, oh, she just spending that money getting her nails done, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then they be like, let them come live with me. And sometimes I tell the mama, why don't you just try this out on a temporary basis? Just to see how it's going to work out. And those dads usually come back and are like, here, you take them. I'll just pay the child support money, because it ends up being a whole lot more than what they think it is. They think $1,900 is a whole lot of money. And it is, but I've seen dads who are like, my ex was paying $300 and wanted to tell me about what I could spend the money on. I'm like, this is nothing. This literally puts gas in my car every week for me to transport her back and forth, because you're not taking her to school or picking her up from school or taking her to any extracurricular stuff. So that whole situation, I feel like, number one, the little girl is right. It's no way you can't give her money for pizza if you get $1,900.
And then you're saying, oh, well, it's not fair to the other ones. Well, sometimes life is not fair. You're not here for fairness laws. You know what I'm saying? You're the parent. You have to figure a way to balance this whole thing out. Mm-hmm. That's what parents do. Don't just say no to these 3 kids because, look, this money is coming to me. I don't need y'all looking over here.
Right.
Well, it's coming, like she said, because of me. Mm-hmm. Now, yeah, you can use it on, you can use it on lights and gas, whatever. We understand that. Mm-hmm. But some of the stuff you're saying no to, it sounds like you're only saying no because I'm the adult and you're the kid down here. Don't question what's up here because, and we grew up seeing that, we grew up in that era where the adults would say no and there was no explanation, there was no reason just other than, hey, you're on the wrong side you're on the wrong side of the question here of the adult. And hey, what I say goes. We'll see you later, and leave that door open in the room. Ain't no slamming the door, closing it, and none of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm the adult, but this kid is right. Like, that's a lot of money to go to that household for one kid. And I don't know if the mom sees the animosity building up. Mm-hmm. But that kid's not going to forget that when she gets to be in her 20s or whatever. Like, yeah, I remember how you treated me when I wanted to get my nails done and I wanted to get pizza for lunch at school. Like, that was not that hard to pull off as the parent.
Yeah.
But you were not willing to do that.
She's definitely not going to forget it, and she probably going to have her own thoughts about child support when she gets to be older because of this situation with her mom. Because I definitely, because of my situation with my mom and child support, like, because my mom, anytime I ask for anything, would be like, ask your dad. When I got to be an adult and I was divorcing my daughter's dad, I didn't want child support at all. I was like, whatever you're going to do, you just do it. I'm not going to, mandate that you give me anything because I know what I'm going to do for my daughter. So, but, the court wouldn't do, at that time, they wouldn't sign a divorce without some sort of support. So I just asked for the bare minimum, which is $300. I could have gotten more than that, but I was like, I don't want to put a strain on his pocketbook because he had another child that he was paying child support for. So I'm like, I just wanted to be divorced. I just didn't want nothing to do with him. But wow. But anyway.
See, there's good people and bad people, and don't think you can't learn something from bad people. Just like you can't learn something from good people. See, learning sometimes ain't always what to do. Sometimes learning is what I'm not gonna do. That's right. Yeah. So, yeah, I can take some good from you, but when I see some bad, that's what I'm not gonna do when I get to be in your shoes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I hope that situation worked out for them, and any veterans that are watching, we pray God's blessings over your life. We pray that you are able to
cope,
to get back into society and, have some sense of normalcy and no PTSD and no underlying health issues, any of that stuff that comes from being at war.
Guilt, suicidal thoughts, all that stuff comes.
We pray against all of that. And we thank you guys for listening. If you're not already following us, make sure to do so on Facebook and Instagram at Get Love Like Mine Podcast. And if you have a question or want some advice from us, be sure to send us an email to getalovelikemindepodcast@gmail.com and put Ask the Amoses in the subject line. And we thank you for listening. Happy Sunday.